elected members of Congress going missing for months at a time, when, especially right now, when the margins in the Senate are razor thin, the margins in the House are razor thin, every single person's absence here has country-altering implications. And the fact that people can just go missing without explanation, not just Mitch McConnell, you had another member here that was just gone for 4 months and didn't tell anyone where they were, no whereabouts, no transparency. I mean, this is it. I don't even know how this is legal. I really don't even know how this is legal at this point. And I just find it shocking. And how is everyone pretending this is normal? This is not normal. This is not normal at all.
For weeks, questions have been swirling around one of the most powerful figures in Washington. A senator disappears from public view. Votes are missed. Questions go unanswered. And when reporters finally ask about his future, the response only creates more confusion. Now, critics are demanding answers, supporters are defending him, and Americans are left asking one simple question. What is really going on with Mitch McConnell? Because the story isn't just about one politician. It's about transparency, accountability, and whether the people elected to represent the public still owe the public an explanation. Let's dive in.
I respect your time. Did you see the video, or the picture, I should say, of Mitch McConnell this weekend? And what do you think of his outlook? What are you hearing?
Well, I don't hear much. I was, never a huge fan. But he's one of the people. He should be voting for John Thune because, John Thune was loyal to him, whether you like John Thune or not. John Thune was very loyal to Mitch McConnell. And Mitch McConnell's like a no vote on Save America Act, which is, basically, you think about it, it's voter ID, it's proof of citizenship, and it's no mail-in ballots except for the military disabled, sick, or if you're sick, or travel.
Look, as an American, I respect Mitch McConnell's years of service. But loyalty matters in politics. John Thune stood by McConnell for years, and now when it comes to key issues like election integrity and voter confidence, McConnell seems completely out of touch with where Republican voters are today. If the Save America Act is really about proving citizenship and securing elections, I don't understand why a Republican senator would oppose it. To me, this looks like another example of the old establishment fighting against the direction Republican voters want to go. And honestly, after seeing the recent photos and health concerns surrounding McConnell, many Americans are asking whether he's still the right person to be influencing major decisions in Washington. But that's not all. Listen to what comes next.
My name is Stella. I want to ask, do you support ICE taking working people off the streets and kidnapping them?
The most surprising part is that when it was time to answer the question, McConnell appeared more interested in avoiding it than addressing it directly. This wasn't just an awkward moment, it was a moment when a powerful politician was confronted with a serious question and seemed unable or unwilling to give a clear answer. And that's where the entire picture begins to change. Because when the question became difficult, the answer seemed to disappear. What stood out wasn't the question itself, but the effort to avoid it. Sometimes, what a politician refuses to answer tells you more than any answer ever could. When a young activist asks a serious question and doesn't receive a direct response, it naturally leaves people wondering whether accountability is being avoided. The public expects answers, especially when the issue involves government power, civil liberties, and constitutional rights. Supporters of stricter immigration enforcement argue that laws must be enforced and that ICE has a legal responsibility to carry out its mission. Critics, however, contend that enforcement should never come at the expense of due process and basic civil liberties. Regardless of where people stand on the issue, one thing remains true. Americans should never be afraid to ask questions about how their government exercises its authority. And when those questions go unanswered, public trust begins to erode. Accountability is not a political favor, it's a responsibility. But wait, this is only the beginning. Because in the next clip, the situation becomes even more revealing, and the questions surrounding this moment become much harder to ignore.
Situation with Mitch McConnell, you put out the photo. Do you think you put out enough? Or do you think you need to put out a video to prove life?
First of all, how is it that we have sitting elected members of Congress going missing for months at a time, when, especially right now, when the margins in the Senate are razor thin, the margins in the House are razor thin, every single person's absence here has country-altering implications. And the fact that people can just go missing without explanation, not just Mitch McConnell, you had another member here that was just gone for 4 months and didn't tell anyone where they were, no whereabouts, no transparency. I mean, this is it. I don't even know how this is legal. I really don't even know how this is legal at this point. And I just find it shocking. And how is everyone pretending this is normal? This is not normal. This is not normal at all.
Do you think there needs to be a rule, like an internal rule or a bill that could prevent these scenarios from happening in the future?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, and listen, things do happen. You know, people get into medical incidents. If you're in the hospital, you're in the hospital. But I do think that there should be some sort of, there's a line here. And I think almost everyone can agree that it's been crossed.
She wasn't talking about one awkward press conference or one uncomfortable moment. She was talking about a system that allows elected officials to disappear from public view for weeks or even months without providing any real explanation to the people they represent. Think about that. In a Congress where a single vote can shape national policy, every absence matters. The margins in both the House and Senate are often razor thin, meaning one lawmaker's absence can have consequences that reach far beyond Washington. That's why AOC's comments struck a nerve. Her argument wasn't just about where a politician is, it was about transparency. If elected officials are entrusted with enormous power, shouldn't the public have a basic understanding of whether they're able to carry out the responsibilities of the office? What made her remarks so powerful was their simplicity. She wasn't demanding someone's private medical records. She wasn't arguing that public officials can never face health challenges. Her point was that there has to be a line somewhere, and for many Americans, that line appears to have been crossed. Because when lawmakers vanish for extended periods without clear communication, the issue stops being personal and becomes institutional. It raises questions about accountability, representation, and whether the rules governing Congress are keeping pace with the realities of public office. And perhaps the most striking part of all was her final point. Why has this started to feel normal? Because if something this significant no longer surprises people, then maybe the bigger story isn't the absence itself. Maybe the bigger story is how comfortable the system has become with a lack of transparency. And that is a question that reaches far beyond any one politician.
Okay.
Senator, you're up for election in 3 short years. What are your thoughts on that at this point?
I'm sorry, I had a hard time hearing you.
That's okay. What are your thoughts on running for re-election in 2026?
What are my thoughts about what?
Running for re-election in 2026.
That's
Did you hear the question, Senator? Running for re-election in 2026?
yes.
All right, I'm sorry, you all. We're going to need a minute. Senator Benny.
A reporter asks a straightforward question. What are your thoughts on running for re-election in 2026? A routine political question. Nothing complicated. Nothing unexpected. But what happened next is what made headlines. At first, McConnell says he had trouble hearing the question. The reporter repeats it, then repeats it again. And for several uncomfortable seconds, the room seems to freeze. The question hangs in the air, but the response never really comes. Now, nobody can know exactly what was happening in that moment except McConnell and the people around him. But from a public perspective, it was difficult to ignore. Here was one of the most powerful figures in American politics being asked about his future, and suddenly the focus shifted from the election to his ability to answer the question itself. And that's why this moment resonated far beyond a single press conference. For many Americans, it raised broader questions about transparency, accountability, and what the public is entitled to know about the people elected to represent them. Think about it. A U.S. senator can disappear from public view for an entire month. No official statement, no video message, no clear explanation. Meanwhile, speculation and questions grow to the point that agencies are reportedly trying to determine whether he's even okay. That's exactly the point AOC was highlighting. Because this isn't just the story of one individual, it's a story about accountability. When public officials hold enormous power, the public naturally expects a certain level of transparency in return. And when that transparency is missing, the questions don't go away. If anything, they become even more important.
I have not heard one thing from Mitch McConnell or his office, and everyone deserves a level of privacy on their health. But when you take on these jobs, when you represent the people of the Commonwealth of Kentucky, you give up some of that. That's just what it is. That's what comes with the territory. And when you've been in a hospital for a month and you've missed all the votes, which is your job, I mean, basically you're not able to show up for work, you owe your boss, like anybody else out there who works, an explanation of what's been going on and when you'll get back. And that's all we're asking for from the.
And this is where the conversation becomes even more difficult to ignore. The issue isn't whether public officials deserve privacy. Of course they do. Every person, regardless of their position, is entitled to a degree of privacy when it comes to their health and personal life. But public office comes with responsibilities that ordinary jobs do not. When someone is elected to represent millions of people, they aren't just holding a title, they're holding a public trust. And with that trust comes accountability. That's the point being raised here. Not a demand for private medical records. Not a demand for every personal detail. Just a basic expectation of transparency. Because when a United States senator is absent for weeks, misses votes, and remains largely out of public view, people naturally begin asking questions. After all, voting, debating legislation, and representing constituents are not side duties, they are the job. And in any other profession, if someone disappeared from work for an extended period without explanation, questions would follow. Not out of cruelty, but out of responsibility. What makes this situation so striking is the silence. Not because the public is entitled to know everything, but because the public is entitled to know whether its elected representatives are able to carry out the duties they were chosen to perform. At the end of the day, this isn't really about one senator. It's about a simple principle. Public trust requires public accountability. And when that accountability starts to fade, confidence in the system begins to fade with it. What do you think? Should elected officials be required to provide more transparency when they are unable to perform their duties? Let us know in the comments.